travelers, and monster catchers abound. I'm Stelliferous, and today's episode is not for the faint of heart or light of foot. We're headed into the Glass Hollow, a gnarled, half-forgotten forest of crystal vines and fossilized flora in southern Nibiru, because something bloomed there recently, something ancient, and it brought the desert with it. The trees here don't sway, they creak. Their trunks are hollowed out like old flutes, and every gust plays a different ghost song. Zena said she smelled frankincense and rot. Luna noticed jackal-shaped holes in the moss. I noticed the sand. Sand doesn't belong here, but it poured in like a tide from between roots, from inside dead trees, from nowhere, and then I saw it. A figure formed from pollen and gold dust, tall as a tree, draped in robes of withered petals and fronds. Its face was a wooden death mask with emerald eyes and a broken ankh carved across the brow. 6 arms, arm-like branches held strange tools, a golden sickle, a scroll wrapped in thorns, and one glowing glyph shard. We didn't recognize it right away, but when it spoke, it wasn't words, it was judgment. I am Nekherb, bloom of the after soil, judge of the lost sun. We later confirmed it with Professor Orion. Nekherb is a Myth-Glyph Hybrid. Long ago, ancient travelers from another star system, what Orion calls the Sothic Empire, tried to transform parts of Nibiru using sacred seeds that grew from sand and soul. One seed didn't stay buried. It observed forgotten rites and desert memories, then it grew. Nekherb isn't just a monster, it's a tomb, a temple, and a priest all in one. When we tried to catch it, it didn't resist, it tested us. Luna was shown to her worst mistake. Zena relived her own funeral, and me, I saw my glyphs dead, shattered, left behind. To escape the vision, I remembered Professor Orion's rule for ancient mirror glyphs. When faced with fear that isn't yours, close your eyes and speak the truth. So I did. I said I would never abandon them. I'm here because I remember. The vision ended. Nekherb didn't attack, it bowed. Then it rooted itself into the ground and crumbled into dust, and left behind a single glyph seed shaped like an obelisk. We planted the seed in the moon garden. It hasn't bloomed yet, but it pulses under the soil during eclipse nights. Professor Orion believes it could grow into a guardian glyphid, or perhaps it will judge again. The sky outside the tower was bruised with twilight, deep purple and golden bleeding into the horizon. I stood in Orion's office, still covered in pollen, dust, and residual static from the encounter. My glyph, one of the strongest had cracked in half. I'd tried to catch Nekherb. I almost had him, but the moment it touched his chest, it shifted like brittle glass. I laid the remains on Orion's desk. He didn't speak at first, just examined the fragments through his lens telescope. His brow furrowed and his jaw tight. The firelight made the green shards glint with cursed emeralds. Orion spoke up quietly. You tried to catch him. I nodded. He didn't back down from the fight, but he didn't fight either. But when I cast the glyph, he destroyed it effortlessly. Orion looked at me quizzically. That's because Nekherb was never meant to be caught. He turned to face me, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Reverence, maybe even fear. Orion said to me, "You encountered a threshold guardian." He gestured to a shelf behind him and pulled down a black-bound book with gold thread pages. The Glyph Prohibita. Glyph Prohibita. Orion said in a long, exasperated sentence, "Long before us, the Sothic Empire didn't create monsters. They created keepers, entities meant to anchor memory, ritual, and balance to the living world. Nekherb is one of them. He placed the book open before me. An illustration showed a towering figure of vines and wood with a glowing glyph at its heart, surrounded by kneeling priest-like figures. Orion said to me, "He's not alive in the way other glyphs are. He's a ritual construct, powered by remembrance and grief. You can't trap memory, especially one that doesn't want to be forgotten." I looked down at my broken glyphid. "Then why did he let me get that close? Why test us?" Orion smiled faintly, tapping the page. "Because you remembered him. You acknowledged him. That was the test. Nekherb doesn't punish those who try. He punishes those who forget. Your attempt wasn't a failure. It was a conversation." He closed the book gently, as if the air might fracture it. "The broken glyphid, that's not a defeat. That's a mark. Proof you crossed the veil and returned," Orion said. I stood in silence, cradling the fragments. The seed Nekherb left behind pulsed faintly in my pack, as if it had heard everything. Orion's voice dropped to a murmur. "Just be careful. Not every guardian will be as merciful." I was halfway out the door, boots muddy, shoulders sore, and my glyphid pouch still humming with static from the felled catch, when Professor Orion's voice cut through the dim corridor like a thread of starlight. "Stelliferous, wait!" I stopped in my tracks. When Orion says your name like that, it's never casual. He stepped out from his classroom, long coat brushing the floor like shadows. "If you're serious about continuing this, about catching glyphs, especially the ancient ones, you'll need something more." He walked over and placed a dusty cube in my hand. It was warm. "What is this?" I asked. Not a what. A who. You'll need the Glyph Keeper." He glanced down the hall like he was making sure no one was listening. "He's a glyph himself. Doesn't fight, doesn't run. He just catalogs, learns, stores every glyph signature he sees. Not a book. More like an android. Except, well, he looks like a monkey. Chrome bones, glowing eyes, long arms that move like quills." I raised an eyebrow. "You're saying there's a monkey bot glyph that keeps track of all the other glyphs? He'll recognize the uncatchables. He'll know what the rest of us miss. But be warned, once you find him, he'll start cataloging you too." He turned and disappeared back into the classroom, leaving me in the hallway with a warm cube and 1,000 new questions. A monkey made of memory, a walking archive, the Glyph Keeper. Guess I've got a new lead. And it's this cube that's probably going to turn into a... I turned the cube over in my hands as Orion's steps faded into the quiet. It wasn't like any glyphid I'd seen. No ridges, no latch, no pulse that matched a creature inside. Just warm humming like it was dreaming. Then the hum shifted like it heard me. "Hello?" I said. I didn't expect it to answer, but the cube twitched, not just vibrated, it tensed, like muscles waking from a long sleep, and then it began to unform. Lines traced across its surface like circuits melting into ink. The cube's edges folded out and over, revealing chrome limbs that stretched and twisted like wireframe vines. A long, flexible tail spiraled out with a flick. Two glowing orange eyes blinked open on a smooth, mask-like face. He crouched there on my palm, weightless but alive. "You're the Glyph Keeper," I said. He cocked his head at me, then reached forward, one spindly metal finger tapping lightly on my temple. Not a poke, a scan. And then he spoke, not in words, in thought. "Glyph Keeper, telepathic static tinge. Identity verified. Stelliferous, field hunter. Witness of 8 glyph evolutions. 2 near-fatal engagements. Trusted by Glyph Orabeak. Recognition granted. Binding initiated." A soft pulse echoed in my chest like a heartbeat, answering back. The Glyph Keeper leaned forward, pressing his forehead against mine for a moment. Everything slowed, my vision filled with glyph signatures, symbols I couldn't read, flashing post my mind's eye like starlight through water. And then he pulled back, tail coiled neatly, crouched on my shoulder like he's always been long there. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't need to. The Glyph Keeper had chosen me, and from that moment on, I wasn't cataloging glyphs alone anymore. They were cataloging me. Back at my sanctuary, the stars outside were quiet, still. Nibiru's 3 moons and 2 suns hung above the pyramid house like watchful eyes. Inside the sanctuary hummed softly as I stepped into the glyph sanctum, a domed room at the heart of the house, filled with warm amber lights, glowing data panels, and the quiet tick of rotating glyphids stored on suspended rings. As soon as I entered, my Glyph Keeper stirred to life. Glyph Keeper Unit Solon 7. Initializing scan. Its sleek brass arms unfolded from the wall, and the center lens glowed with a pale teal light. One by one, my glyphids floated out of their holders and into the air, hovering around me in a slow orbit. Scanning Orabeak. Status: stable. Emotional sync healthy. Scanning Mirno. Status: agitated. Exposure to high storm resonance. Recommend hydro calming bath. Scanning Error. It stopped on the fractured glyphid. The one Nekherb shattered. The pieces trembled under Solon 7's lens. A faint shimmer still clung to the shard's edges. Some kind of residual energy. Glyphid unrecoverable. Status: destroyed by ritual class entity. Signature match. Nekherb, blooming judge. Creating archive entry. Encounter an uncatchable glyph. Judgment based. Entity classified as threshold guardian. User integrity intact. Glyph integrity compromised. Emotional echo preserved. Solon 7 gently lowered the shards into a stasis vial and sealed them behind a new archive plate, marked with a glyph I'd never seen before. It looks like an open eye embedded in a tree ring. Designation created. Broken remembrance. Entry locked, only to be opened by user Stelliferous or authorized Luan faculty. I stood there, watching my glyphs slowly return to their cradles. Some blinked softly at me, some pulsed in sympathy. Mirno curled around my ankle, still crackling faintly with static. Zena was downstairs, already filling mission reports. Luna was in the greenhouse, whispering to vines that had started to twist towards the sky on their own. And me? I had the sealed vial of broken green glass in my hands, and felt like I'd been given something heavier than knowledge, something sacred. The Glyph Keeper says it's a memory, a preserved emotional echo, but I swear I still hear a heartbeat in the shards. Nekherb didn't just shatter my glyphid. He left a piece of himself behind. The desert wind had calmed. The sanctuary was now quiet, save for the soft churring of nocturnal sand beetles hidden under stone. I stepped onto the porch barefoot, the cold marble tiles grounding me more than I expected. My head was full of visions, of storms, of broken glass, and the sound of Nekherb's voice echoing in my bones. Now, I didn't plan on falling asleep, but the wind was warm, the sky was a velvet tapestry, pricked with scars and stars. An Orabeak curled up beside me like a golden feathered pillow. I leaned back, staring into the glittering void above, and my eyes slipped shut. A faint chime tickled the edges of my dream. Stelliferous, environmental protocol, override in process. I blinked awake to the beam of a scanner passing over my face. The Glyph Keeper, Solin 7, stood at the edge of the porch, its center lens blinking amber with mild concern. Its brass arms had folded inward, hands poised like a disappointed parent. Stelliferous, it is unsafe to fall asleep outside. Moonlight exposure elevated. Surface temperature dropping. Proximity to unregistered atmospheric patterns high. I yawned and rubbed my eyes. You're worse than Orion, I mumbled. Professor Orion does not permit outdoor slumber for field agents either. Recommendation, warm beverage and rest indoors. Orabeak gave a sleepy honk of agreement and nudged me with his beak. I stood, legs aching, and looked back at the horizon. One of the Nibiru's moons, Cinder, was half dipped behind the cliffs. A strange flicker danced along the tree line, for in the distance I wasn't sure if it was a distant storm or something else working up. Plus, I thought it was kind of weird because Nibiru's moons and Nibiru's suns never set, so why was one of their moons dipping now? All right, I'm going in. As I stepped back through the golden arc of the pyramid door, the Glyph Keeper followed closely behind, mumbling soft safety protocols to itself like a vigilant machine nanny. Logging incident, outdoor nap, unauthorized, severity minor, emotional state contemperative. Note, subject remains unusually drawn to the stars. I only closed my eyes for a second, but it felt like Nekherb was still watching, not judging, just waiting. I don't know what is to come next, but I can feel it in my chest, like the calm before the storm, and the stars, they're getting louder. The next morning was perfect. Golden light spilled through the hexagonal windows of the pyramid house, and the moons had finally went back to their normal position in the sky. I don't know why the one moon had dipped a little bit, but it was kind of scary. I felt calm now, lighter than I had in days. Even the glyphid shard, the one Nekherb left behind, had gone still, resting quietly in its stasis shell. I brewed my tea, reviewed my notes, and packed my school satchel for the academy. It felt like the beginning of a normal day. I should have known better. I stepped onto the porch, Glyph Keeper humming cheerfully behind me. Travel route, Luan Academy. Weather conditions optimal. Sky route cleared. Rover charged. Today will be... And then silence. Not from the Glyph Keeper, from everything. The air thickened. The sun dimmed. The breeze halted mid-motion, like the world was holding its breath. And that's when I saw him, Nekherb, standing at the bottom of the stone steps, just beyond the cactus fence, taller than I remembered, more defined. His death mask, gleaming in the daylight, no longer dormant and dust-covered, but burning with sap light. His 6 vine limbs uncurled like petals, ready to strike. You let your guard down. The judgment is not yet complete. You were weighed and found uncertain. He raised his arm and earth shuddered. Glyph Keeper launched into full defense mode. Warning, ritual class glyph detected. Code Guardian reassertion. Defensive measures engaged. Summoning Orabeak Mirno. And any other glyph from the sanctuary. But I raised my hands, not yet. Why are you here? I shouted, stepping down the stairs, my boots crunching over scorched grass. You already tested me. Nekherb didn't move. The vines around his feet pulsed once, then lashed toward the sky, summoning a ring of glowing glyph script that hovered around us like a broken halo. You believed you passed. You did not accept the truth. I barely dodged the first strike. One of his sickle vines cleaved a trench through the stone path roots, dragging memories into the air. I saw my own face twice, once smiling, once crying. The images flickered and vanished like smoke. You carried doubt. Doubt is weakness. I summoned Orabeak, who launched into the air with a cry of gold. His radiant wings clashed against Nekherb's swirling arms, searing green bark with bursts of solar energy. Zena and Luna came running from the side hall, each ready but stunned at the sight of Nekherb alive and attacking. "He followed you," Luna breathed through the veil. "Through the veil," Zena called out. "He's trying to purify something in you, Stelliferous, something you haven't faced." And she was right, because as we fought, I saw flashes, visions of glyphs I failed to catch, of choices I regretted, of leaving someone behind, someone I promised to protect. Breathless, I dropped to one knee. "Fine," I said. "You want the truth? I'll give it." I stood again, raising my cracked, half-repaired glyphid, the one that broke. "You shattered this, but not to punish me, to show me what it meant to carry loss. And I do carry it every day, and I will carry it because that's how I honor them." Nekherb froze, the vine stopped, the earth grew still. He stared at me for a long moment, the glowing sap in his chest dimming to a warm, deep green. Then he nodded. "Truth accepted. The judgment ends." He stepped back and dissolved into leaves and dust. Only this time he left nothing behind, no seeds, no shard, just silence. I sat inside, bandaging my arm, tea forgotten on the counter. Zena paced. Luna was quiet, still trying to decipher the glyph ring Nekherb left in the soil. The broken glyphid now pulsed faintly. Repaired? No, but healing? Maybe. Nekherb came back, not to fight, but to finish the trial I didn't know was still going. He saw what I refused to face, that behind a glyph catcher doesn't just mean catching monsters. It means letting go of who you thought you were, so you can become who you need to be. And that, my friends, is the end of this episode of the Monster Catcher's Journal. May the stars align in your favor. May all the gods of Nibiru shine their beautiful light down on you. And next time, I hope you like what I will tell you a story about. But this time, it was Nekherb. Thank you. Goodbye.